Hi everybody, it's Tamara from Prairie Town Girl here on Personalize, and I am just starting to work on this month's design team project for Caroline's craft tree, and I thought I'd better start the camera and bring you along with me. So this month Caroline shared these great printables with me. She did all this pin stitching on paper, and she actually has tutorials that shows you how to do your own if you want to do that. But what she did was took her work and she scanned it and she made it into printables, and so it's got this great lined background on it, and so you get 13 designs, and you get it in regular size as well as traveler's notebook size. So I've got the traveler's notebook sizes here, and I'm being lazy and I'm just going to use her wonderful printables instead of actually doing all the pin stitching myself. But I wanted to put them in something special, so I am going to make a journal using this great fabric that I picked up at the thrift store as this is going to be my cover, and I love it because it's already looks like it's quilted even though it's not. It's all one piece. But I am going to do something special with it. I'm going to add some beads to the outside. So to get started, I don't want to just bead right onto the fabric with nothing behind it. It's too flimsy. So I'm going to attach some felt to the back of it, and these are just some felt pieces I had in my stash. Doesn't matter the color as long as it doesn't show through. So if you have a spray adhesive, I would probably just use that and I would attach it like that, but I don't have any of that, so I'm just going to pull out my good old Stitch Witchery, and I'm just going to lay it down every few spaces and iron it on, and that will adhere the felt to the fabric, and that'll give me something a little sturdier to work with on my beading. So I'm going to go do that. I am actually going to go and get started on my beading because this is going to take me probably several nights in front of the TV of beading. But before I finish, I will come back and I will show you how to do the beading on one last section, and then we will finish it up. So I will be right back. Before I go, I thought I should mention this envelope is what's going to sort of be the body of my journal. So I want to make my felt the same width as my envelope. So I have a line there. I'm going to cut it down because I don't want to make it the same width as my fabric. My fabric is going to be a little bit wider so that I can sort of fringe the edges off a little bit. So I will show you as soon as I have it all layered together, and then I will go and do some beading. Okay, so you can see it's all sort of glued together with the Stitch Witchery. I'm not sure if felt and Stitch Witchery are really like best of friends, so, and that's okay with whatever fabric you choose, as long as it's not like a man-made fiber, because if you use that, you would possibly melt it. So anyways, make sure you're using natural fibers, and this is a cotton, so that fits the bill. And I just sort of put the Stitch Witchery every few inches, and it's really just to stabilize the fabric, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to go nuts with it. It'll just help me hold things in place. And what you could do, if you have an embroidery hoop, you could use an embroidery hoop to really hold everything in place and keep your fabric taut. I think that might be the one thing I don't have in my craft closet, so, but I could be wrong. I'll have to go and look. So I am going to use these wonderful lines in the quilt pattern to my advantage, and I'm going to start by beading along those lines and see where that takes me. So I will be back right away, but it'll probably actually be in a few days and we'll see how far I've gotten. Okay, I'll be back soon. Okay, it's been a few days and a few nights in front of the TV. I'm gonna show you. I'm so happy with how this is coming out. I don't know if you can see all of the wonderful beads. So what I was going to do, I had first planned to use the lines on the quilting blocks, and I did try that. I think I started here or something. Anyways, I didn't like the way it looked, so I changed the whole plan and I decided to just be inspired by the designs within each block and try to fill in spots with beads, and I used all the different colors that you see in the fabric. So that gives you a little bit of an idea. I thought I would just add a few more beads over in this section in the greenery, so that I could show you how I beaded it. Now, oops, I'm gonna take this apart here. I have a lot of beads because I used to make a lot of jewelry, but I am not a beading expert by any means. So please don't get mad at me if I take some shortcuts and I don't do things exactly the way a professional beader does it. So I decided to just use regular thread, like just thread you would use if you were sewing. You can use a see-through nylon thread, sort of like a fishing line type thread, but I wanted to reduce the bulk as much as possible, so I went with this. And it's one strand with a knot on the end and a tail up at the needle end. So again, that was just to reduce the bulk. So I just, I mean, it's pretty simple, really. So I'm just going to bring it up from the back. I don't know if you can see my needle there, but I'm bringing it up from the back, and then I'm going to put on a bead, string it down. Oh no, my thread tail came out of my needle. There we go. And then I just go back down nearby in the fabric. So some people might put 2 or 3 or 4 beads on at a time. I prefer to do one at a time. I think it keeps it stronger. And then I'd say every 5 to 6 beads or so, I will tie a little knot in the back, because the worst thing that could happen is if you did it all on one string, one thread, and if the thread broke, all your work could go just flying off the fabric if you're not careful. This way, if a thread does break and you lose some beads, it would just be from one small section, not your whole thing. So that's, you know, when you're buying clothing and things like that have beading, that's a good way to check the quality, is how often the knots happen, if you can see the underside of the beading. If it's machine stitched, you know, that might be a little more difficult to tell, but if it's all done on one thread, I would be a little nervous. There we go. And you don't need to fill in the whole entire design. A few beads here and there just add some texture, and they catch the light, and they're just so pretty. So then on the back, what I would do is just catch a little bit of the fabric underneath and do do one sort of slip knot, but then I also do a couple more tight knots, just because I'm so nervous about it breaking, which I probably shouldn't be, but but I'm not a big risk taker. So, and then you could just keep beading along after that, but I think that's all I need to add to finish up my piece. So there we go. I'm super happy with how that turned out. This next step is optional. I'm going to take a piece of iron-on interfacing and put that on the back, again, just to seal in all of my stitches. Now, if you're not a sewer, you might not be familiar with interfacing. Interfacing is what's used to sort of add stiffness to fabric when you're sewing it, like in a collar or a cuff or that type of thing. And you can get iron-on and you can get sew-in and all that kind of thing. And this is a really lightweight iron-on. I just happen to have a massive bolt of this stuff, like hundreds of meters of it. So yeah, I don't mind throwing it on the back of here just to ensure all my stitches really stay in place. And this is really just because it is a journal, it's a piece that's going to be handled a lot. I just want to be really sure that it's going to stand up to that. So I'm just going to iron that on, not on a super duper high heat, just enough to adhere the interfacing, because I don't want to melt my beads. My beads are probably mostly plastic. They're seed beads for the most part. There's a few, I don't know, are they called bugle beads, the little long tubes? But they're mostly seed beads and they're mostly plastic, and I don't want to melt them. So, okay, I'm just going to go and iron that on, and I'll be right back. Okay, interfacing is on, everything's ready to go. Before I adhere everything and sew it in, I want to add my closure, which is surprising because usually I forget and I have to try to figure it out at the end, but I actually thought this through. So I had a little strip of fabric left over, so I'm going to use that. So I want to have it, actually I'll show you where I want to have it. I need to sort of figure out how everything is going to lie on this envelope. So it's going to be like that, and it's going to fold over like that, which means I want my tie over here instead of on this side. I think I'm going to put it over here. So I'm just going to put a little, you could just mark it with anything you have on hand. I happen to have a pin right here. So I'm going to mark it. That's where I want it to go. So I don't know how long this is. What is this? It's about 26 inches, I guess. But I didn't measure it. It's just a scrap. And how wide is it? It's about 3/4 of an inch. And again, I just ripped it and got my little frayed edge, and it's good to go. So I'm just going to sort of put it in half, and I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and I'm going to actually sew it right on here. If you don't have a sewing machine, you can sew it by hand. If you have some really good glue, you could glue another piece of fabric over top this way that would hold it in, but I want to stitch it down, so I'll be right back. Okay, so my tie is on, nice and secure. I should mention, of course, if you're sewing, be very careful not to try to sew over top of your beads. You might even have to use a zipper foot to get around them. Just, when you're sewing, be careful about hitting your beads because you'll break a needle if you do. Now this next step is going to seem a little strange because I'm going to use my glue stick. And really, I just need to adhere the fabric to my envelope enough so that it is secure while I'm sewing my edges down. So if I had a spray adhesive, I would probably use that. If I had snail tape, I would probably use that, but I'm all out of certain craft supplies right now, and I'm trying to limit how much I go out to stores and things like that. So I've got a glue stick, so we'll just use that. You just want to, again, be careful that you I'm not going to go like right to the very edge with my glue stick because I don't want to gum up my needle because I am going to sew along the edge. And the last thing I want on my sewing machine that I use for making clothes and quilts and everything else is to have it all gummed up with glue on the inside. So I want to be careful, but you don't have to get too crazy about it. So just add a little bit of glue here and there to keep things in place. And I might need to, once I'm done sewing things in, I might need to come in and trim some of this fabric back a little bit. Whoops. I am going to come up right on this inner edge of the sort of the pocket there because I'm not going to be sewing that, and I do want it to be secure around that edge. And when you're beading, it's a good thing to sort of check where your fabric is laying. So this is going to probably tuck under a bit, and you can see I did a little bit of beading accidentally. I went past the point of no return there, and it doesn't hurt anything, of course. It's just that it's a waste of your time because nobody's going to see that, and it's only going to get in the way. Likewise, normally when I do an envelope journal, I would fold in this side before it folds over so that it's nice and tall and skinny. But I didn't check, and I beaded all of this, and I don't want that to get hidden underneath of a fold, so I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, and I think actually I really like that size, to be honest with you. Okay, so it's all sort of in there and secure, and I'm going to tuck, and maybe I will just run some glue on the fabric here, because I need to tuck that in to the inside of my envelope. Oh. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go back over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to go around the outer edge if I can. Now I'm not going to be able to do that here, but I'll maybe, I don't know how I will manage that, maybe just go in between the beads. I'll figure something out. Maybe I don't need to sew that edge, we'll see. But I do need to sew the upper and the lower edges, and I'm just going to come as close as I can to the edge without hitting any beads. And leaving a little bit of, about probably a 1/4 of an inch of fabric over the edge. Okay, and I think I'll go along this little flap edge as well. And just make sure you keep your ties out of the way while you're sewing. Okay, I'll be right back and show you where that goes. Okay, I tried to move my camera over to my sewing machine so you could see how I was sewing it, but I just couldn't get a good angle, so sorry about that. But so here it is. I sewed all along the edge just like I told you, and then along this flap here. What I want to do, I wanted to sort of stay away from wet glue because it can seep through the fabric and make a little bit of a mess, but this little flap is going underneath, so I'm just going to add a little bit of nice strong wet glue to secure that underneath there, because I can't sew that edge. And then just tuck it in. There we go. So my next step is I want to, and I already started on this side, I want a nice fringy raw edge on the top and the bottom. This is super easy with cotton fabric. It's probably already unraveling on its own, and you can just sort of pull threads and it'll start to come apart. If yours is a little more tightly woven, or if that's not working for you, get a pin or a seam ripper or something like that and just gently start to pull the threads from the edge over, and then just it'll all start to come apart. Your cross threads will come off easily, and you get a nice sort of feathery, delicate edge. So if you start to see something like this happening, which can happen at the corner where the fabric's folded over, so it's gonna break, you just snip that off. No big deal. Easy peasy. So you can see how that's sort of coming along that edge. So I might do a little bit more of that. I don't know, we'll see. It's a good start though. So what is left? I think the only thing left is really to get the papers in here. Now, this is going to be a traveler's notebook style where you can take the papers out and replace them with other papers. So if you want, you could put some eyelets in here and put in a binding elastic thread or cord or whatever, something like that if you want. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to, first of all, I don't want to interfere with the beading going on the outside with eyelets, because it'll sort of like interrupt the pattern. And I don't think I need to do all of that to get my papers in. All I'm going to do is take some elastic cord and going to tie my papers in. That's it. Super easy. Yeah, so something like that. And I'm just going to tie them in nice and tight. I probably should do something a little more secure, but I feel like I'm ready to finish this project. Okay, just do a nice tight double knot. There we go. That is done. So let me just show you the finished effect. There we go. So we've got a little bit of flap that comes over. Got all of our great beading going on, catching the light. And this elastic almost, because it matches this violet, it almost disappears. And then you open it and you've got lots of space in here to tuck things away. And I am going to add something. I'm going to add a small writing board. So just something so that if I want to write on this page, I'm not dealing with all of the beading underneath of it. I just put the writing board right here put my page over it, and then I can write on top. Sorry, I'm jiggling the table, sorry. So I will do that. I don't think I'm going to do that in this video. It's pretty simple. You just get some card or something sturdy. It's a little bit smaller than the size of your page that can fit in your envelope, and just cover it. Cover it with some paper. I'd probably stay away from like decoupaging and putting lots of embellishments on it, because that is exactly what you're trying to get away from. You want a nice smooth hard surface. So I will make one of those. I will maybe post a picture of it in a couple of seconds here, but I'm not going to do it all on camera. Anyways, let's just take a look, one more look at all of these gorgeous papers of Caroline's. They're so pretty. I am very tempted to like put some beads on her designs or stitch on them or something like that, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to let them speak for themselves, and then the page is nice and smooth, and if I want to, I can write right over top of the design. I don't think I would ever do that, but you can. They're so cute, aren't they? And they're so pretty. There you go. I like this one especially. So there you go. There is our beaded fabric cover journal. I guess that's what I'll call it. Beaded fabric cover journal. It's pretty simple actually. It's just the beading that takes a lot of time, and you can do as much or as little of that as you want to. I'll do some close-ups of it in a couple of seconds, so you can see right up into the beads there. And but yeah, that's it. So I hope that gives you some ideas. I hope you try this project, and if you do, please make sure to tag me so that I can come and see it. I love seeing if people are inspired by my videos or my Instagram. That's really why I do this, because I'm not monetized. I don't make any money from my videos or Instagram or anything like that. I'm not going to get monetized anytime soon. So the only way that I know that you're enjoying this is if you like or comment, or if you make one of my projects and let me know. That would be absolutely wonderful. That would be the greatest gift. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope everybody is staying safe and enjoying the wonderful autumn days that are coming in. It's getting cooler and cooler every day here in Canada, but the colors are beautiful and it's very inspiring. So hopefully I'll have an autumn journal ready to go for you pretty soon here. So everybody have a absolutely wonderful week. Thank you for stopping by, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye.